Hey, it's Soul with news, opinions, and analyses, and today I wanted to go over some of the questions that have been answered from BlizzCon and some new questions that are being raised because of that. I'm not going to cover like a whole point-on-point thing on every single statement that was made, but instead I'm going to go over like some of the big game changers, some of the things that people have been really asking about. But then I want to ask some new questions and maybe start some conversations about what's ahead for the World of Warcraft. So I'm looking at a handy-dandy list of notes, and right now at the top of the list I have professions, or I guess in this case crafted armor stuff. So I said once upon a time that crafted armor stuff just kind of sucks, that because you can only upgrade it through the Obliterum stuff. You can only get it up to about 850 or so, but after that there wasn't a whole lot of use for it. Now that statement by me is kind of dulled by the fact that secondary stats are so much more powerful than primary stats, so it makes kind of an 850, a fully 850 geared person much more powerful than someone who happens to be even in like heroic Emerald Nightmare gear. And since then, with the 7.1 patch, the maximum item level has been raised from 850 to 855, woody woo, and we've switched to a paradigm where crafted armor is going to be supported through the length of the expansion. Now we know that in 7.15, no, I think 7.2 is when they're going to raise the item level of crafted gear again to another 10 to 865. However, with the 7.15 patch that's coming, supposedly Blizzard said that they're going to kind of address the prevalence of secondary stats, trying to not make it so powerful. So we're not quite sure what the state of crafted gear is going to be. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts and say, hey, is our profession still a thing? Is it important to you? Do you think it's still going to be a moneymaker? Is it going to be viable for raiding or high-end raiding or anything like that? Just share your thoughts about this or anything else that I'm talking about in today's video. Next is legendaries, and while I know it's everyone's favorite thing to talk about, I'm only going to touch on this briefly because of what was said. Now, Blizzard had said during the convention that there are going to be more legendaries introduced, whether it's still going to be in the 7.15 patch or 7.2 or beyond that, I'm not sure, but it does introduce a very kind of a thing that I'm not too pleased about, I guess. Well, there's a big concern that I have with even more legendaries incoming, and it's big enough that it's going to have its own topic. I'm going to try to do it tomorrow, or I'm going to try to get it to you guys really soon, and it's not something that people have been talking about very much, and well, we'll see what happens when we get to that. Next is flight, and now we know that flying is going to be coming back for sure, hooray. We also know now how it's going to be coming back, which is basically to complete world content and not dungeons or raids or super crazy quest lines that require us to go, well, anywhere. And now we know how it's going to be unlocked. It's just a matter of doing world content and upping a reputation, which is same thing. What's cool is that it's coming back in a pretty meaningful way. We're going to get snazzy mounts. There's going to be a quest line that's attached to it. It's going to feel good once we finally take to the skies and take down ships, spaceships, and other stuff. Also cool, and I've said this multiple times before, is that flight isn't just, we're not getting flight just to get it. There's going to be an actual purpose behind it. There's going to be things to do that involve flight. It's not going to be, hey, you've done everything, here's your flight, and now everything's trivialized and boring and whatever. There's actually something that we're going to be doing. Thankfully, just like the Pathfinder achievement in Warlords of Draenor, this is going to be account bound. Everyone's going to be sharing it as soon as you get it one time, and that's been kind of a thing that has been trending with Legion. Once you do one thing on on what's considered your main character, it's going to be unlocked with all your other stuff, and that's been applied to things like the Karazhan attunements, the World Quest unlocks, the Suramar dungeons. I mean, that stuff didn't happen out the gate, but it is going to basically, once we get to like 7.2 or so, we're going to be at that stage. Along that same line, we're also going to have that new catch-up mechanism for artifact knowledge. Now we'll be able to purchase artifact knowledge with just straight-up garrison resources. Haha! With Order Hall resources, we'll be able to purchase those artifact knowledge book thingamajigs up to knowledge level 10, which is a really, really nice boost. It'll easily get us to maybe our at least to our second talent very, very quickly, much faster than our mains did when Legion first started. So when you couple all of that stuff together, along with the statement that Blizzard had made regarding things like heroic dungeons and keystone dungeons and even world quests, that they're slowly going to be raising the item levels on those as the expansion goes on, this is it. These are our catch-up mechanisms for Legion, and I'd love to get your thoughts as to what you think of it. If you kind of remember from before, we had, what was it, Baleful gear and stuff like that from Warlords of Draenor. It was like Baleful gear and like the mythic dungeons legends that had a really big jump in them. So we had that before. This is what we have now. What do you guys think? So let's talk story and lore for a little bit. I'm not too sure if it had been stated so explicitly before, but it looks like it has been now that this character Medan, he's no longer a thing, or he's no longer canon. So for those of you who don't know who Medan is, he's supposed to be the guardian of Tirisfal, kind of like how, what's his name, Medivh was, and his mom, Egwene, was. He's supposed to be the son of, I believe, Medivh and Garona, that one orc stabby chick. Supposedly he's like super powerful, like game ending thrall Metzen status. He's supposed to be like he's supposed to be like this super crazy guy. And it was that kind of significance that kind of pervaded, I don't know if that's even a word. It was a thing that lore buffs were just kind of antsy about. Okay, what's going to happen when this character enters the field? He's just going to kind of end everything. He's going to, one-shot stuff. But thankfully he's been taken out. That's the kind of character that is really hard to insert into the story without it, having really, really big effects on the overall story with regards to like players. And players will just think to themselves, well, what's the point? Medan's here. He's going to freaking save the day. It's going to be like Thrall, but worse. As I told you before, I know, and it's not really a spoiler, Rathian was in the alpha. He was supposed to have this weird plot in the High Mountain storyline, but then that was taken out. But we do know that Blizzard at least wanted to have him in there to do something. And one of the few interesting pieces from the Q&A was involving things like Rathian and what have you, where they talk about how much time that they invest in certain characters. Like Garrosh had a very obvious, had a very clear plan, a start and a finish. But with something like Rathian, they were just like, what do we do with them? What do we do with them this time? They're just kind of going at the seat of their pants with Rathian, which is why we only see like a little glimpse of him in Warlords of Draenor, and that's why we almost saw him here in Legion, and they decided to pull him out. Well, I think it's kind of cool that they can sort of lift certain plot lines like that and move it elsewhere. It is kind of a bummer that a character as significant as Rathian has been working in the shadows, or at least we can pretend he's working in the shadows, but we just haven't seen him in a while, and I at least miss him. I don't know if you guys do, but I would like to see more of him. He was pretty interesting. He had a weird kind of flamboyant aura to him. He had kind of a strange relationship with Anduin Rin. Sorry. But I guess the biggest news that came out of BlizzCon, at least regarding story, and I guess content too, is that we're going to Argus. And we're going to Argus in a patch. Not an expansion, as Ian said, but just a patch. So we gotta wonder, what is the state of Argus by the time we get there? Now, what's interesting is that when Ian had presented this revelation to us, it showed Argus as an intact planet. It looked pretty big, and it was full of blue stuff, so it wasn't totally green looking. Or, well, maybe that was Argus. We don't know for sure, but let's just assume that it is. And we can speculate all sorts of stuff with this. I mean, we can say that, yeah, while we might be spending a patch in Argus, it might be followed up with an expansion of Argus, for all we know. And that could be something that Blizzard's planning. I'm kind of leaning towards that, yes, we are going to go to Argus in a patch, and we're going to leave Argus in that same patch. Supposedly the end of Legion. Now, as for how or why, I don't know. Maybe our characters are going to go there and then we're all just going to die. And that's it. That's how we lose our artifacts. We just die. Of course, it might not be that. It might be by the time we conclude our adventures in Argus, somehow we get kind of whisked away back into Azeroth. Like, let's say like Alleria and Turalian. They throw us back through a portal and say, oh, good luck, champions. We're going to finish the fight here. And they'll sacrifice themselves, cutting off the portal and disabling the Legion, and who knows, I don't know. Heck, they might try to do something crazy like, oh, I don't know, like blow up the planet. Maybe they're gonna set up a giant mana bomb or transport an old god onto the planet. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they could do, but who knows? I mean, let me know what your conspiracy theories are. And finally, I'll talk about content, which is a really nebulous, a very vague thing to talk about, but I'm gonna try to talk about how Blizzard has been developing what I'm gonna call content platforms instead of simply content. Now, I know you're going to disagree with me with what I define as content, but I'm just trying to work with really simple terms here, so just bear with me. Let's talk about dungeons as, simple content. Let's make new dungeons. Let's make the players happy. Boom, and here are some dungeons. And that's cool because they've given us dungeons. They're giving us Karazhan. They have given us Karazhan, and they're going to give us at least one more dungeon in the 7.2 patch. At the same time, we have Mythic Plus or Keystone dungeons or, God, whatever they want to call call this thing already? Keystone Dungeons are a content platform that takes existing content like dungeons and builds it up. It makes harder content, it keeps it relevant, it gives players something to do or not do, but the option's there, and having more options of course will make people happy. In the same vein, we have Time Walking, which is a different kind of content platform that they've been developing over time. Something like this breathes new life into dungeons that people otherwise wouldn't go to except for transmog, but now they can go in for transmog, well, and goodies, and tokens to get more goodies. Scenarios are a way to digest content, and that's good. Those little micro holidays and the bigger holidays, that's content, that's also good. Brawlers Guild is coming back, more content, that's good, and they're adding some more features to it, which adds to that platform. The whole Hillsbrad Battleground. Battleground is a content platform, and they're adding on to that. PvP brawls are just a supplement to that, and now we're going to get some crazy rules to it. Okay, so maybe having said all of that, I guess there is no difference between content. You know, I guess that was just a bad idea to try to make a difference. But I guess what I'm saying is that they're making tons and tons of stuff, and they're building on top of that stuff too to keep the players happy. And if they do deliver on all these things that they talked about by 7.2, I think we're gonna have a very, very happy player base. They may not enjoy all these things that I'm talking about and all the other stuff that I haven't been talking about, but they are going to enjoy something. And unlike Legion, they are focusing on multiple types of players instead of just, I guess it was just raiders back in Warlords. One of the things to keep an eye out for, or maybe look forward to, is to see just how world scaling is going to factor in with all this. They did say that world scaling, well, maybe world scaling in a way will kind of apply to holidays. They had said that holidays should be for all levels and not just max level players, but it remains to be seen how they're going to apply world scaling to the rest of the world. They had talked about little things that they can do to improve the leveling experience, but I'd love to see more. I'd love to see what kind of max level content will be available for players, no matter where they are in the world. Like, I'd love to go back, you know, when I'm 110 and go back to, I don't know, Outland for some stupid reason. What I'd love to hear from you guys is what's missing from all this content delivery for everything that they're doing. Some of them are really obvious. I'd love to just hear from you guys what they are. But one thing that I will mention would be like Battlegrounds. Now, they had said that they are refreshing. They refreshed one arena. They're going to refresh another, and it did look pretty good. But what about Battlegrounds? It's been a really, really long time since we've seen them. We haven't seen any new ones since MOP, and I guess Ashran doesn't count. But I would like to see kind of a visual update to you know, some more classic Battlegrounds. Maybe not something like Alterac Valley, because that's a really big change, but something like Warsong Gulch or Eye of the Storm. I mean, they could probably use kind of a visual update, I guess. I mean, if resources were unlimited, I would love to see the whole kind of Dota or Defense of the Ancients style battleground that they've talked about a number of years ago. But again, I would like to hear from you guys. What do you think about all this new stuff that's coming? Is it enough? Is it too much? Is it the wrong stuff? Are they going in the wrong direction? You know, what? And with that, I'm going to be heading out for the day. If you enjoyed the word vomit that you had just experienced, hey, please hit a like and a sub. I super appreciate it. Definitely check out my other videos on news, opinions, and analyses, and God knows whatever else that I made. And I will hope to see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to be trying to pump out a couple more videos this week. I really don't know if I'm going to be able to punch these out, but we'll see. Stay safe and have a good one. I am Soul. Stay breezy, guys.